right. So we're back with another episode of the Headshot Comedy Show podcast. Today we are sitting down with Jana Whiteside. How you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you doing today, Zach?
Excellent. Always having a good time. We're doing a show on, I guess it's March 3rd now that they've rescheduled to, out at the Lit Cafe. Wanted to get you to sit down on the podcast and do a little interview, get some questions asked so that people out there can get to know you a little bit better. First up, how'd you get started in comedy?
First of all, I'm just going to say, your voice is just very, it's hitting. It's smooth.
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to bring my voice down, a little bit to...
Have you done podcasts before?
No.
Okay, so this is a new thing.
Baby's first podcast. I'm hearing myself, and
we get an exclusive here on the podcast.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of sensory feedback.
I can take your level down.
You know what? It's good. It's good.
Okay.
So how I got started in comedy? Well, comedy's always been a special interest of mine. Growing up, I would say a lot of comics, the ideal was making my parents laugh and my siblings laugh at the kitchen table or whatever. Seinfeld was always on. My dad was really into stuff like The Great Outdoors, like John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, stuff like that. And I would, when it was my turn to pick a movie, I was still too young to appreciate a lot of the humor, but I would still pick those movies so that I could see them do their belly laughs, and for me, but I'm a creepy person, so I just watch people.
You think that's
anyways. Creepy? My friends say I'm creepy because when I cook for them, they'll be eating and they'll just look over and see me, and I'm just
just staring at them,
waiting for their reaction. And then it's the same. I watch things ahead of my friends and family, and then when a funny part comes up that I think they're going to enjoy,
you anticipate their response.
Yeah, I think I just looked directly.
Okay, well, that puts a lot of expectations on your friends. So how did that translate from an enthusiasm for comedy to actually getting up on stage and?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had a mental breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah,
yep, that'll do it.
I've had several, but the most recent one was the most significant and the sexiest, in my opinion.
Of course. If you're ranking them.
Yeah, I do cater most of my mental health struggle for the male gaze, as one should. But this one in particular, last year just a lot of stuff unraveled, and I actually had my psychiatrist recommend that I lean into my special interests as part of my recovery.
Okay.
And told me I needed to do stand-up. And
so you're doing comedy on therapist recommendation.
It's that bleak, Zach. Yeah,
no, that's great.
It's the darkest timeline. No,
I don't think laughter is the best medicine. That makes a lot of sense.
I don't think it's the darkest timeline. I do think it's the weirdest one.
Sure, things just keep getting weirder every day anyway.
Yeah,
Might as well make jokes about it.
Just lean into it. Yeah.
So on that note, for you, where did jokes come from?
Trauma. Again, I can kind of skew kind of dark. I'm definitely influenced by who I call my real mother, Maria Bamford. She was the first comedian that I heard talk about some of my diagnoses and actually make light of it and be honest about it. And I just thought that was so empowering and hilarious. It's not just that she talks about those things.
No, absolutely.
She's legitimately
it is a
very talented.
Taboo subject, but I think those are the ones that comedy, you need those to kind of break into something that's tough to talk about if it's serious.
Absolutely. So for me, comedy has always been, and I think even Neil Brennan talks about it for him, going through dark times in his life. It was just if he could think of a joke in that moment, it was that little sip of oxygen that kept him, going for the next minute. So for me, it's kind of a defiant, hopeful act to be able to find
comedy
humor.
Is an act of resistance.
Absolutely. I do think that I, at my foremost, I'm a freedom fighter. So
yeah, absolutely. You're fighting the good fight.
Yeah, I think they're working on my monument downtown right now.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing that when it gets unveiled.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So you've thrown out a couple of names already. Is there names that come to mind specifically when you think of like your comedy Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. I mean, Maria Bamford is definitely like, again, she was like a big kind of turning point for me to see her, specifically the bits that she does about OCD are just so dark and so funny at the same time. And then Neil Brennan,
Sure.
I just think is incredibly clever in his writing. And then Bo Burnham, particularly his some of his later stuff.
Yeah.
I've joked around that like my goal in my comedy is I'm just leaning into it and just figuring out my voice is that I want to be trending the way that Bo Burnham was in Google, where it's like the top search for me is like, is Jana Whiteside okay? I remember
You want people to inquire about your mental health.
Well, yeah. I mean, because
after
I
a good
remember
set.
the first time I watched Inside by Bo Burnham.
Great special.
It was, but then like I was actually like a little concerned at the same time.
Of course, yeah.
And then
I remember showing that to people, me and my dad in particular being like, oh, he's insane.
Right. And so I looked online just to like check in, and like I looked, and one of the top searches was literally just, is Bo Burnham okay?
Do you think that's like part of a shtick? Is that like part of his act to have that, or is it an honest portrayal?
I mean, I think that he is professional enough to where he still has control over what he shows.
Sure.
But I think that his struggle is very legitimate. And, he's already had a break. Maria Bamford's had a break on stage. And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's a fine line, right? Because you still want to be a professional, and you've got to figure out how to keep your voice authentic while still... It's taking care of yourself.
It seems like a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, like if you build a brand that is built around, let's see, being mentally unwell, like if you get better, then do you lose your audience because they've come expecting like, oh, they're going to tell jokes about this train wreck or whatever?
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I do think that you have to, build a comedic voice that is, bigger than all of that to give yourself room to grow and change. And then it's also just kind of a sick joke of the gods that I think that some people with struggles are drawn to comedy, because it is a lot of people who are drawn to comedy are naturally like people pleasers.
It's a band of misfits.
Yeah, like the people pleasers. They are insecure but have giant egos at the same time.
Right.
And it is such a vulnerable thing to do.
It's an incredibly vulnerable
and
art form.
It takes a lot of strength and self-knowledge to do it.
Sure.
So when you combine that, layer that with some of the other things that artists deal with,
sure,
it is very much a double-edged sword, where I think it can be incredibly helpful and then incredibly detrimental at the same, like in different circumstances if you don't thread that needle correctly. And so you're always going to have people that are like,
yeah,
is that the right choice for you?
Oh yeah, and I think that's part of the magic of it, is like, you're right, you do put yourself out there and you have to be vulnerable, but at the same time, when you're on stage, if you tell those vulnerable jokes, I think you can tell like when an audience is laughing at you versus with you. So it's that feeling of like, oh, I maybe overextended a little bit into that joke too far, so now I gotta like find a way to present it that's palatable, I guess.
Well, you and I are different there. I just take laughter.
You just take laughter
at this
where you can
point.
get it.
If they're laughing at me, they're still laughing.
That's probably a more successful way to look at things.
Yeah. Life has humbled me enough at this point that I'm like, hey, got you laughing. So if it's me, then if it's at me, then
Yeah, sure. At the end of the day, if they're laughing, then you're doing something right.
It's still an emotional response. So gotcha.
So, again, for you, what separates a good joke from a great joke?
Yeah. So, I mean, most great jokes are about thwarting expectations, right? Because our brains like to solve puzzles, so we like to predict where something's going to go.
Right. We want to see the hook in the road.
Right. And so when the comedian can kind of, kind of switch paths at the end. And so I think there are a lot, it's if you are more predisposed to write jokes, it's not that hard to get a good joke, right?
Sure. You need a turn or an exaggeration.
Right. Yeah, you can think of something and be like, that's clever. But I think a great joke really comes from taking a step back and breaking it down and really recognizing what pieces of it are making it funny to begin with.
Right.
And then
what makes it relatable.
Yeah. And then you have to cut out the fat and emphasize what is the funny part.
I struggle with that all the time. Like I feel like 90% of the jokes I write, they start off as just a manifesto. And I'll end up with like 3 pages that I got to cut down and be like, all right, what's the real core issue that I'm trying to hit on here?
No, I mean, like I write TED Talks to get down to like a 2-liner.
A simple setup punchline.
Yes. And I am, I default am a procrastinator because I don't have brain chemicals. And so I am hoping that the urgency of needing to do something will give me enough dopamine to actually accomplish
do your
something.
best work up against a wall.
Right. But, that's not great when it comes to really refining a good joke to a great joke, because you have to have the discipline to write and then edit and cut, so. Yeah,
a disciplined writing process helps a lot. And like, I fall in and out of it of just like, some weeks I'll feel like, I'm writing regularly. I'm getting good jokes together, good thoughts. And then other days I'll just stare at a blank page and have no idea what I'm trying to talk about.
Well, Taika Waititi, he says that, sometimes writing is opening a blank document and staring at it and feeling sad and then closing it. That still counts as writing. That's
a fun quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think that those wasted hours are still writing.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. No. So, yeah, and honestly, I still have not figured out. I say that I haven't figured out. I'm coming to recognize that my brain and just myself, everything that I do has a 100% relapse rate. So I have to be okay with the ebb and flow of just my creative process, my day-to-day, and kind of figure out a loose way to create space for me to write. So like balance that discipline while still partnering with the way that my brain works and my creative process works. So yeah, it's but I still have some work to do in figuring that out.
That's part of the process. Yeah. I feel like you never really arrive at the destination. You just keep getting closer every day.
It's about the friends we make along.
It's always about the friends we make along the way. That's a good way to look at it. What are some of your biggest pet peeves in comedy?
I think for me, I mean, I'll just say it. I get annoyed with people who just go up and say gross things for the sake of them being gross.
Oh yeah, shock value
for
comedians.
The shock value. And it bothers me because it's lazy, and it also feels like it's disrespecting people's time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's disrespecting the art form.
Sure.
Which is hilarious to hear myself saying that as I'm in a
people don't like I've
Nicolas
noticed
Cage
that
T-shirt, just like
but still though, like people down on comedy like it's not an art form, and I feel like that feeds into the same, like it contributes to the same idea. The idea of like when you don't view comedy as an art form, then it gets easier to think like, oh well, just getting up and talking about whatever gross subject comes into your head, like that's an acceptable form of comedy.
Right, exactly. And that's not comedy. It's not like
well. I don't know. I go back to if you're making people laugh, then you're doing something right. So I can understand like the value or the merit in a well-written dirty joke. But yeah, like the idea that, someone goes up there, I feel like a lot of comics that get to this point where they don't know how to write a joke. So they try and they try and they try and they just get silence. and silence feels horrible when you're on stage. So like even a gasp feels better than just crickets. So I think that's where that comes from, is a lot of people want to like say something shocking so that they're guaranteed to get a reaction instead of just trying material that's, not as edgy. I don't know.
No, I think...
Not saying it excuses it, but I think that's part of where it comes from.
No, I would agree with you on that. And, I would say that bothers me. And then I think another thing, I guess my only other strong pet peeve I would have is just meanness.
Meanness.
Disguised as comedy. A lot of times it's, thinly veiled either jealousy or just not being like a very nice person.
Yeah.
And like it
happens.
So it's just, and it gives an uncomfortable energy to the audience and just kind of to the whole, and you will get some laughs with that, but they're because I think people are kind of uncomfortable, during that time.
Right. They just don't know what other reaction to have.
Right. And so it's one of those things where, but then again, like I that's just kind of one of my core things I'm trying to live my life by in general right now is, be kind, but take no shit. So like, just like, you don't have to, there's enough awful
There's enough
stuff.
meanness.
There's enough awful
you
stuff
don't
in
have
the
to
world
like
without
punch and lash out at people.
Right. And it's like, even if you don't understand somebody else or their decisions, why don't you just maybe be happy for them, or if not happy, just neutral. Just kind of let them. You don't know what their life is like. You don't know. You don't know the full picture. But yeah, that's my TED talk on being kind.
I like that.
Yeah.
Those are good points you make.
Yeah.
When you're not doing comedy, how do you spend your time?
Well, most recently, I've become a beer tender.
Beer tender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a couple places.
Is that over at Hampline?
Yes, and Soul and Spirits.
Okay.
And I'm also training as a ghost tour guide downtown.
Okay. Do we have a lot of ghosts in Memphis?
Oh, so many.
So many ghosts?
So many.
I was unaware.
Memphis is haunted AF.
Okay.
Much like myself. And
perfect for the job.
Yes. No, I want my entry to the tours that I lead is, you have not, in fact, survived your first ghost sighting. This is just what I look like in the winter.
That's a good opening line. I like that.
And then, so beer tending, ghost, not hunting, ghost narrating.
Ghost narrating, ghost guiding.
Yes, and then I read to raccoons.
Oh,
so,
yeah?
Yeah.
Is that fulfilling and rewarding?
I'll say it's illuminating for me.
Sure.
Yeah, it just gives me some perspective on things.
Plus you got to turn the light on to read.
Yeah.
Ba-dum-bum-bum. Terrible jokes.
Hey.
I
loved it. It just took me a minute because it's a thinker.
Yeah, that's the kind of jokes I like. I like to offend people with thought.
Very cerebral.
If you could bring a fictional character to life and hang out with them, who would it be and what would y'all do?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I
like the thought that you're giving that.
It's a big question. Honestly, like I have to go off the cuff with like where my heart first led me.
Mm-hmm.
Sam the pony from Lord of the Rings.
I thought Sam was one of the hobbits.
No. Sam the pony was their faithful companion. Pretty much all the way up until Mordor.
I only watched the movies like once. I don't remember there being a pony.
Yeah, well, you need to,
there was?
You need to do that, and you need to read the books as well. Yes.
So you would hang out with a pony?
People
Is he more than a pony?
He's more than a pony. It's I'm going to rewrite More Than a Feeling by Boston, but change it for Sam.
Okay.
More than a pony. Yeah, no, that's so dumb. But he is a real one. Lord of the Rings fans, those those who know, know.
Yeah.
I know you're busy out here cranking out pods. If you're listening to this right now.
I try to do what I can. Yeah. But yeah, we got a lot of nerds who tune in.
Yeah. If you're listening to this right now, I'm not very familiar with this medium, but I'm pretty sure there's somewhere you can go drop a comment, hashtag.
There's got to be like a Lord of the Rings podcast out there already somewhere.
Wait, no, Sam. What am I talking about? It's Bill, right? Bill the pony.
You're asking me like I know. I don't.
Samwise.
Samwise is the Hobbit.
Gamgee is the Hobbit. Bill is the pony. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get canceled. You're going
to have a lot of angry Lord of the Rings fans chasing you down for that one.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm a real Lord of the Rings fan. I promise I am. I just took my ADHD meds with some Coke. So Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
Nothing going up these nostrils but saline spray.
My God. Yeah, this is a tell-all. This is a great first podcast that you're doing, by the way. So yeah,
Ride or Die,
Lord of the Rings fan.
I just feel like being in his presence would heal me. I think I would be able to go off all my medicine, and I'm standing by that. And
so you would hang out with
all
Bill
of my
the
fans
pony.
that I've let down by getting that confused, please just know you can't hate me more than I hate myself. So,
Okay,
yeah,
that's a pretty good gauntlet to throw
yeah.
down. If you could relive any day that you've lived already, what would it be?
Meeting Jeff Goldblum.
You met Jeff Goldblum? How was that?
I don't actually remember much of it, but I do have video of it because pretty much as soon as he talked to me, I kind of blacked out to cope with.
Sure, he's quite the personality.
Of excitement, yes, but there is a video of it on my Instagram. I spent some of the last of my life savings to go sit front row to see him play with the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, him play jazz piano.
Oh, didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
I was about to ask if it was like a planned thing or if you just ran into him.
No, I mean, I still didn't know that I was going to get the chance to meet him.
Okay.
I mean, that was incredible. I mean, I'd hoped. You always hope, right?
Sure. Hope for the best.
But yeah, that was an incredible day.
Life finds a way.
Day.
That's great.
That's right there. Got it inked on the arm.
That's a good phrase.
So, yeah.
So meeting Jeff Goldblum, that was a good day.
Am I allowed to ask you a question?
Of course.
So what's your answer for you?
For which one?
For the day.
A day that I would relive? Man. God. There's a lot of days popping up that I would never relive. I really...
Do you need to do process of elimination? Just
yeah, I need to like
write all
narrow
of those
down. It's not the day I busted my leg in Hawaii. It's not, surprisingly, not getting pierced in Australia.
Getting pierced?
Yeah, I got my nipples pierced in Australia on a dare from my mom.
As one does.
Yeah.
What happens in Australia?
Yeah, what happens in Australia, they will not allow you. They won't let you get a tattoo. That was the thing, is I was wanting to get a tattoo while I was there, which dumb fucking thing to do in high school. So runner-up was to get my nipples pierced, and did that. And yeah, I probably wouldn't relive that day. I don't know. I think probably the eagle ceremony was pretty cool, like that. I remember feeling good that day, and I remember like a couple of weeks later, I did my high school graduation, feel like this is lame. Like, why do I have to walk across stage with every other classmate that I have when I had a stage to myself like 2 weeks ago. So I don't know. Someday when I got accolades or recognition for something.
Yeah.
Praise and recognition. That's the industry that I'm in. Sorry, this phone keeps going dark, and I need my questions because I'm unprofessional. If you could have a superpower, what would you pick, and how would you use it?
I had a superpower. It would be correctly interpreting social situations.
Yeah, that's a pretty exclusive club.
And I would use it to make myself and others more comfortable than I currently do.
That's a very benevolent position to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with that one.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like. It's still early in the year. Do you have any goals for the year ahead? comedy or otherwise?
Yeah. Honestly, my my performance metrics have changed pretty drastically over the past year. You know, like this time last year, I was setting my audit manager goals that I was going to bring in a certain amount of money to my firm and, you know, get like, you know, 8-pack abs and all that kind of stuff. And now that I'm in my current life path, my main goal will be to, you know, net even with my income and expenses. That would be pretty punk rock.
Yeah, not go into debt.
If I could do that, that'd be
pretty cool.
Pretty litty, as the kids say.
Lit and
yeah,
bussin'.
Very relevant. Now you cap it.
I don't get young people slang anymore. That's how I knew I was getting older.
I have never been relevant. I don't plan to start now. But yeah, no, honestly, just like I'm trying to get my footing in this season of my life and just stay open to the opportunities that come across my path. I think my main goal is just, you know, going back to LOTR, Lord of the Rings. I feel like a lot of my priorities are aligning more with that of a hobbit. So if you look at things, I'm just...
More home-cooked meals, more leisure time.
Well, that, you know, and even in what I'm pursuing, you know, a good laugh. You know, I mean, like, some of the hobbits are grumpy, right? But, you know, Bilbo was a real one.
Yeah, there's Sleepy, there's Happy.
Yes.
And Grumpy is another one.
Yeah, your canon knowledge never ceases to impress me. Yes.
Just trying to piss off more Lord of the Rings fans.
Yeah, than they already are. Guys, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, if they're still listening to this part of the podcast.
They probably already hung up. They're like,
up.
That blonde girl, that's what she's talking about. But no, yeah, so like I'm prioritizing storytelling, good ale, right?
Okay, yeah.
You know, in the beer tender position. So yeah, just like, you know, trying to get back to some simple things. And
that's a good series of goals. I like those, like staying regular.
Yeah, just trying to be more present and just kind
always a struggle.
of keeping the course. Yeah.
Let's see. What music are you most into right now?
Well, my taste in music always disappoints people.
Disappoints?
Yeah. Well, I think...
What kind of people are you confessing your musical taste to?
Pretty much anyone is like, oh, that's a choice. So, and I also recognize that I am not a thoughtful consumer of music because I
am like a lot of bubblegum rock and stuff like that.
Well, I'm just a whore for dopamine.
Okay.
And so if I find something catchy that makes my brain do sparkly things, I will play that to death.
Over and over
just
until there's no more dopamine to wring out of it.
And a lot of the shortcuts to that are like, you know, nostalgia factor, or just goofy. You know, and people will see me depending on, you know, what I'm wearing, depending on, you know, the jokes I make, this, that, or the other, and they get in my car and they expect to hear something. Well, I'm not just like picking
I don't know. I would
fans.
guess like based on your material, I guess like The Cure, maybe Good Charlotte. Deftones, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sad girl rock.
Sad girl rock. Divorced dad rock is actually some of my favorite.
Yeah. You talk about like simple and fun. That's where it's at.
Divorced dad rock, like, you know, can you help me? I'm bent. That's
right. Matchbox 20, Creed, Foo Fighters.
Get some Goo Goo Dolls
in
there.
Goo Goo Dolls. Oh my god.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I love divorced dad rock, but like, you can get in my car and the Prince of Egypt soundtrack might be playing. It's just really whatever can get my brain to keep going from day to day. And I am a huge Swiftie, which surprises and annoys plenty of people.
I'm realizing that she has way more of a stranglehold on culture than I thought she did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 4 Grammys now? And she's already got another album in the works?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I think she's talented. I think she's also a good businesswoman.
Yeah.
Also, you know, it's a connection point between me and my two sisters.
Uh-huh.
So like we all have liked her music together. Like, so that's been something that's been bonding for us throughout the years.
That's great.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where now that she is more successful, I don't think her personality has really changed. And there's been people who kind of make assumptions about her and about her fans, when really I just think that she's always been authentically trying to work on her craft and, you know,
Yeah.
and
She's got a good brand. I
Yeah,
mean, she's
work on her
clearly
writing.
reaching a lot of good people.
yeah, so, you know, it's one of those things. And I was talking to one of my regulars at Soul and Spirit the other day, and I appreciated her because she's like, you know, her music is not really my thing, but I appreciate, you know, the work that she's done and that she's a good businesswoman. And
Sure.
I was like, cool, like that.
Yeah, I don't
that
listen
is-
to Taylor
that is
Swift,
a very reasonable,
but I have to appreciate it.
That is a very reasonable response. Whereas it's surprising to me the level of anger that can be incited in some people.
Those people were angry when they woke up. Taylor Swift just happened to be the target
right.
that they were throwing anger at.
Well, one of my therapists in my last doggy daycare program told me to let miserable people stay miserable. So,
Yeah. You just got to accept that some people are unhappy, and they can try to achieve happiness once they calm down a little bit. But if they're still frothing at the mouth,
down.
no, it ain't gonna work. If you could have one meal with no consequences, what would be on the menu?
Oh, geez. I really like how you wrote that question.
What specifically?
Well, with no consequences, because I'm a crony. Got Crohn's. So
Okay, yeah.
Crohn's owns.
Crony. I haven't heard that term.
Yeah, so consequences are a very real part of my life.
Oh yeah, this is your cheat day. So whatever you got to put on the menu.
Honestly, at this point, I think it would be a steak.
Yeah?
Because recently my system has just decided it's not going to allow it anymore.
No more red meat.
Well, I can have like red meat in small doses, and like if it's like a small, I keep touching it's.
It's you're emphatic with your hand gestures.
Yes,
you're not going to break the microphone.
Okay.
It's just going to spike in the sound, and that's fine.
So I don't know what to do with my hands. I can have like small amounts, and like if I have like a small like burger patty or something like that, but it's something about like an actual steak itself that my system's like absolutely not by
it's
no
too
means.
much. It's overload.
So R.I.P. to my steak eating days.
Shame.
Yeah.
A steak's a good meal.
Yeah.
Steak's a good consequence-free meal.
Yeah.
I feel like I like to have steak when I
Yeah.
can. Let's see.
What would yours be?
My consequence-free meal, I would probably lean towards like pasta. Mara, my girlfriend, she doesn't do gluten at all. So like if I was able to like put together a really nice pasta meal with like honestly just a lot of bread, like I would have like garlic bread with spaghetti or something, and then maybe like a side of like steak or I eat without consequences anyway. Like I try to lean healthy, but if I see, pizza, I'm going to have the pizza.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm pretty much that way too. I mean, like with all my different health conditions, if you did like a Venn diagram and overlapped them of all the things I'm not supposed to have, I couldn't have anything.
Right.
And so I just made a choice in my early adulthood that I was just going to probably live a shorter but fuller life.
Sure.
And just eat
Here for a good time,
pretty
not
much
a
what
long
I wanted.
time.
Yeah.
I'll take that approach a lot. So what's the biggest red flag you get from other people?
Again, this is a very difficult question because my core is to be very attracted to red flags and see them as, like a light pink, like a friendly invitation.
Sure. You got your rose-colored glasses on.
Yes. And so I'm colorblind when it comes to flags. But in this current life stage that I'm in, I would say the biggest thing is just people who read as not genuine. Like I think
Okay.
I think I'm starting to get better at. I mean, I've always been pretty naive and easily manipulated, which is why I've been part of several cults. I'm a great cult follower.
Yeah.
I get that
It's a
from
good thing to put on a resume.
yeah, I get that from my real mom, Maria Bamford, too. So yeah.
So lack of sincerity, that's like something that'll...
Yes, I think I'm learning to pick up on that more, and also try to give them space to give them grace as well, to recognize that they could come across that way for different reasons. They might be nervous, they might be uncomfortable, this, that, or the other. But I do think I'm just getting better in general at recognizing what people I want to have closer in my life versus people that I might need to be a little bit more wary of.
A little bit more hesitant. I find that like giving people space is always a good thing to do, because they just show their intentions.
Right. No, I was just laughing at that because my roommates call me Jana Whiteside.
Why is that?
One of my catchphrases is # less space. So
What did you do to earn that?
I've leaned towards being pretty codependent with the people that I love, and I've been working on that. But during the pandemic, when the pandemic first started,
A great year for mental health, by the way.
oh yeah, and when the pandemic first started, I didn't realize how much time me and my roommates were actually spending together, because we didn't have anything else to do. So we were all just kind of around each other all the time. We'd take my dog Goose out for a walk. We'd cook dinner together. We'd watch a show. This, that, or the other. And I got very used to that. And then the first night that one of my roommates went out to see her parents, and then my other roommate was back in her room doing schoolwork, I realized I was sitting alone in the living room.
Right.
And I was just like,
this is different. Yeah.
And at one point, I just grabbed my stuff and went into my roommate's room and was like, I don't know how to better put this, but can I sit in here while you're working, because I'm going to need less space from you right now. So
That's the origin of less space.
yeah, Jana, less space.
That's a very honest request. Like, as far as bids for attention that I've heard in my lifetime, a very direct, I need less space from you now. That is the most honest plea I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, I've gotten tons of feedback from people, I think especially guys, who are surprised by how direct my communication is. And they're always like, props to you, because you're very direct, but it doesn't come across as, cruel or, anything like that. And I'm just
most people say direct and honest, and they really mean I'm going to be a bitch or an asshole.
Yes.
But yeah, to be honestly vulnerable is a very different tactic.
Yeah, no, I feel kind of bad for accepting compliments for that, though, because I don't really have a choice. It's the autism.
Oh, well, whatever gets you there. Yeah, I think it's just another way to communicate, and I can see why it's refreshing, because people don't often have that gear, or if they do, they try to stifle it.
Oh, I mean, especially in the South, it's people will, tell you the worst things in the world that they wish would happen to you, with kind of a smile on their face and a little twang in their voice, and you're like, I don't know how to read this right now. It makes it so much scarier.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting to hear. There's a quote from Macbeth where they say, "Everywhere there are men with daggers in their smiles." That's what I feel about that Southern passive aggressiveness, where someone will say "Oh, bless your heart," but that is a death sentence for someone to say that to you.
Yeah, there's a quote from Lord of the Flies that says...
If it was another Lord of the Rings quote, I was about to flip this table.
Yeah, no, it's Lord of the Flies, and it says, "Sucks to your Asmar, piggy." And that's what I would say to those people that are telling you to bless your heart.
Okay, that's a good quote. I think that's... What is it again?
Sucks to your asthma, piggy.
What's an asthma?
He's a fat kid with asthma.
Asthma. Okay,
but they say asthma.
asthma.
It's a deep burn, and no one has a comeback to that. It's just an immediate mic drop.
Yeah, no, that's a walkout line. Yeah, you say that before you leave the restaurant without paying your tab.
I have picked little lines from literature that have become part of my normal vernacular, and
you get them tattooed, so if you have to reference them, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, this is completely different. This is just, like, the story of my life. Life finds a way, but life, finds a way. But, yeah, I think it was The Scarlet Pimpernel. Did you ever read that?
Mm-mm. I read The Scarlet Letter because they made us, but...
Yeah, and The Scarlet Pimpernel, and then, like, there's a movie adaptation of it, and the guy just keeps saying, "Sink me."
Sink me.
Sink me.
Like, as in a body of water to sink?
Well,
or like
I mean,
sync up like sound?
He says it in a way that's like,
I don't know what that gesture's supposed to mean.
This is
you
great
give me
for
this,
like
it's
great
gonna
for
mean
this
more.
podcast medium that I'm doing physical gestures, but it's just kind of
we'll have video.
It's just kind of like, oh, stop, like, oh my goodness,
that's more like bless your heart.
You, David. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think it's from Frankenstein, but I might be.
A lot of literary quotes today. This is a very heady episode.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
No, the quote from Frankenstein?
Yeah, what can I say is the quote from Frankenstein. No, I'm just kidding. As it says,
what can I say? He's alive.
As it said in Frankenstein, what can I say? I am who you made me.
Mary Shelley.
No, it's a line that says, "Too bright for my infirm delight." And sometimes I say that the first time I walk out in the sun and I can't see things.
That's cool.
And so I'm very easy to relate to and get to know, and people feel very. I don't isolate people around me with the way I talk at all. So
no, you have quotes and memes to like contextualize for them.
Yes,
that's nice.
Yeah,
makes it more palatable.
Yes.
It's an election year. Who would you put on a presidential ballot for this year? Think of anyone. Doesn't have to be a politician.
Oh man. Jack Black.
Yes, absolutely.
What a treasure.
Yeah.
Like, underappreciated in his time.
Underappreciated, and I'll tell you, like, I think people lose how talented he is because he's so silly.
Yes.
But when he put out that rendition of, what was it? Wicked Game. He put out like that little 1.5-minute rendition of that earlier this year. And it reminded me like, oh, he's a legit talented singer.
He's insanely talented.
But because he's running around through the waves in a leotard, everyone's like, oh, Jack Black,
Which takes a lot of talent as well. Yeah.
It does take talent. But like, yeah, people forget that, well, how talented he is because he's so silly.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, he's like the talent, and also just like, he is just a gem. Like, just the energy he gives off. He has always just been himself. And like, I think even if everyone spent every minute of the day determined to appreciate him enough, it would still not be enough.
Yeah, if we all made a mindful effort.
For who he is.
Like, here's your hour of Jack Black appreciation. Yes. It's still not enough.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough. It's a drop in the bucket for that man.
So who would you pick for his running mate?
Cage.
Nick Cage?
No, sorry.
Kyle Glass.
Yeah.
Kyle Gass. Sorry. I don't know why I call him Kyle Glass. So you would just pick Tenacious D as the presidential ballot.
Yes. And it would be less outrageous than whatever we're going to end up with IRL.
This is going to be probably the last year it's fun to ask that question.
Yes.
But it's going to be wild, and I would definitely vote for Tenacious D before any Republican or Democratic Party. Okay, so one last question. What's one thing standing between you and happiness right now?
Oh, man. Just one?
Just a generalized, just one thing. if it's overwhelming, that I see the number of lights popping up. But
oh man, so many obstacles.
Are you from the Midwest?
No, I take
Okay,
on
you just
different
do that.
voices sometimes.
That's cool.
Oh man.
I should do more character work on stage.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't expect this to overwhelm me as much as it did.
I tend to
As I said,
ask deeper questions
that is
as the interview goes on. So
yeah, it's just
you can keep it light if you like.
no. I mean, I'm not gonna start now, but between me and happiness, would be a brain and body that want to kill me.
Oh, okay. So
Years of generational trauma.
your biology is fighting
And
against you.
also that Taylor hasn't released Reputation, Taylor's version. Scratch all that other stuff. If she can just,
Taylor
if
Swift.
she can just
She needs to
release
step up and
Reputation,
release more music.
Taylor's version. Well, it's specifically. I don't have time to do the labor of educating you in this fully, but
I appreciate that you recognize that
yes.
because it would take an hour.
yes, well, more than that, but I do think that if she would just go ahead and release her version of Reputation, it would cure me.
Okay.
And so petition for her to. I know she's releasing new stuff. I'm excited for her, but I need this.
Well, you heard the call, Taylor Swift. You got to release Reputation.
Reputation. Taylor's version.
Taylor's version.
It will fix my life.
All right. So thank you for being here. Do you have anything you want to plug for the people out there?
Yeah, I guess, we got this show coming up.
March 3rd, Lit
yeah.
Cafe in Millington.
Yeah, Sunday nights in Millington. So make that happen. I've got, I think I'm back at Cameo Thursday the 22nd.
Oh, another Shilarious show?
Yep.
Shilarious Shenanigans?
Shilarious Shenanigans.
At Cameo, Memphis?
Yes.
What's the date on that?
February 22nd.
Oh.
So going to be doing that. Janie up to her shenanigans at Cameo. And then on the 24th, I believe it's a Saturday, I'm going to be featured at the Dixon. I have a slot from 1 to 1:30, I believe.
What you doing at the Dixon?
I have to figure that out.
Is it comedy?
It's supposed to be.
Hey, there you go.
But it is a weird venue. It's supposed to be featuring women in the arts, and I'm the only stand-up comedian, and I'm just going to have a corner for people to, pass by, and I think it's just going to be like a play, monkey, play, and I got to figure out how to make that work. But
So you're doing, carnival barking while people walk by? With
yeah,
jokes?
Basically.
Sounds cool.
But you know what? They told me I was going to be the only stand-up, and us court jesters have to be represented.
They really do. Right on.
In the arts. Like you said, not taking art seriously. I will be there.
Not taking it seriously.
Not taking it seriously. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's February 24th. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.